And we're live. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Commander Fox of Ronin Fox Armored Security. That means you're in the Fox Republic, and that probably means I'm playing MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries with all the DLCs, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be finishing up Chaos Reign, kind of like in a soft way, like a soft completion of Chaos Reign, by doing what I believe is the final side quest. I'm not sure if it's the final side quest, but to my current belief, this is the final side quest in regards to the Chaos Reign content. Now, that said, just because we complete all the side quests does not mean that we have, truly finished Chaos Reign, because we would still need to try out the mechs, we would need to try out the weapons, and that would be an entire ordeal in and of itself. But that is going to be the plan today. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Sheriff Crab. How's it going?
Howdy. It's going pretty good. It's been a little minute again. Once I know we've just been very busy, but it's good to be back. It's good to get playing a little bit of MechWarrior again. Kind of been off the boil slightly. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was worried I was going to be a little bit tired. I would not say that I'm super bouncing off the walls, but I'm also not. I would say let's say 80% is normal. I'm 70%. I am one notch below normal. Probably because I didn't sleep as much as I wanted to. I went to bed, and I can't remember. I've been in the process of writing my dreams down, but I had a dream, something about my cat. And then I thought, a bee got on my arm, and then I woke up and started slapping my arm. And, that's all I remember. Something about my cat. I can't even remember the dream enough to know what my cat did, but something about my cat, and then I woke up slapping my arm to get a bee off of it. That's all I remember, but it woke me up a little bit earlier than I wanted to, and as a result, I am a few hours down on sleep, which has resulted in kind of a 70% strength level, rather than the more 80%, and certainly not the 90 or 100%. The 100% is when I'm bouncing off the walls, basically. Let's see what's going on down in Chatville. Happy Teddy Bear says, howdy, folks. I've come to report that I like the Crusader. Crusader is pretty good. Some people don't like it because they lose the arms, and the arms do carry some important weaponry. I always feel like if you're losing your arms frequently, it is just an issue of taking too much damage in general. I feel like through the process of being more cautious and rationing your armor and fighting at the right ranges at the right times, advancing through cover and whatnot, you should be able to minimize enough damage that, sure, you're going to lose an arm from time to time, but it shouldn't be enough to invalidate the value of the Crusader, especially because you can do 4 SRMs, now you can do 4 Inferno SRMs, and because the SRM doesn't have the highest of fire rates, you can absolutely throw some boxing moves in and punch it out with people in between firing the SRMs, which is a strong advantage over, say, something like the Catapult. So overall, I do like the Crusader quite a bit. Bobzel says, are you excited for State of Decay 3? I don't really know anything about it. I haven't looked at any information, so I would say I am not. Deadly Nightshade says, hello, Mr. Fox. How is it going? As well as hello, Sheriff Crab. Deadly Nightshade is one of our most enduring audience members. He even has a tattoo of the Fox Republic. So, he's been an OG almost as long as I can remember there being OGs. I guess, I just said the story. I should go and show it off. Let's go to the old... Where is it? Where's the museum? Museum's in the palace. The museum? I haven't used the museum in a while. Where's the museum? Here it is. It's in the administrative district. Here's some of the fan art people have made. So this was made by, I believe, a young man in Sweden. I think he was like 13 years old. So he made this, which was very nice. Over here we've got Deadly Nightshade's tattoo. Whoever did it was, he caught the, he caught the image pretty well. One of our guys, he's a Halo guy. He cosplayed as John Wick and actually kind of pulled it off. But yeah, that's in the Palace District's Hall of Fame, for all of the art that the community has created. Freddy 4x4 says, greetings, Commander Fox, Dr. Sheriff Crab. It's time to squish some mechs, or be squished in the process.
Yeah,
El Chajol says, I like how much of a Royal Rumble the map has become with the Chaos Reign. Also, the word of Blake have become my favorite loot pinatas to smack around. I didn't know that they were available as a independent or as their own faction. Robert says, what's on the menu today? We are going to be tackling the last of the Chaos Reign missions, unless there's even more that I don't know about. But at the minimum, that's the plan. We are presumably going to be finishing the last of the Chaos Reign missions. Nightshade said, Fox, you're the best, and I love being a longtime Fox Republic member. Well, the Fox Republic is happy to have you, Mr. Nightshade. Teddy Bear says, doing good. Slater's day work waves to us. I don't have the webcam, but I'm going to wave back. Just use your imagination. All right, we've greeted everybody. I think it's time to get started. Let's talk a little bit about what we've done here. I don't think you've changed. Yeah, you haven't changed. This guy's new. Not like literally new, but I have changed him around. So this guy used to be rocking the large X pulse lasers, but I have dumped that to keep trying different ideas out. And apparently AC2 Rapid Fire got buffed. AC2 Rapid Fire, I don't know what they were thinking when they did this. Let's bring out the old calculator. So this is 2 damage times 400 rounds per minute. That's 800 damage per minute. I don't know. That doesn't seem balanced, in my opinion. To put it in perspective, a medium laser is 5 damage times 12 rounds per minute, 60. So if we do 800 divided by 1 medium laser, that means this AC2 Rapid Fire has the per minute damage of 13 and 1/3 medium lasers. And if we have 4 of them, then we are threatening the minute-to-minute power of 53 and 1/3 medium lasers, which does not seem balanced at all. But maybe it's cap. Maybe it's not even real. But we're gonna try it. The entire build is literally just armor, ammo, and this one little heatsink. Now the Sunder does come with base 2 cooling from built-in double heatsinks, so hopefully the AC2, it can start to get a little spicy once you hold the trigger down on it. So that's something that's different. Who else is? I know some of these guys are different. You're different. So I have brought in some more MRMs. So this thing has been redesigned into the MRM 80 and then 6 medium lasers. I don't know if that's going to be enough double heat sinks to keep it cool, but, we'll try it out. And you were turned into the MRM mech. This thing is packing also 80 MRMs and then nothing but heat sinks. We'll see, was the cooling necessary? We can compare them to each other, actually. Let me see. Who else was changed? Someone got changed. Okay, so these guys got an upgrade. So these catapults are now packing the strongest Arrow 4 missile system that the Inner Sphere makes. The only thing better than this is the Clan's Arrow 4. What's the difference on fire rate? Yeah, it fires noticeably faster. Hopefully the heat is better. The Bushwhacker, I brought it out. Might as well give it a try. The Bushwhacker is using more of our AC-2 rapid fire. Originally, I was going to use the AC-2s on this mech to try it out, but then I'm like, you know what? I want to try a ×4 AC-2 rapid fire, but more opportunities. It's backed up by 4 small laser short bursts, so lots of rapid fire weapons. Should be interesting. And then I brought out the spiders because that's what you guys voted for. You guys voted for the spider, and I just haven't used it because we just haven't had any need for the spider. But the spider is back with some jump jets. I didn't put all the jump jets on, but some jump jets and the small X pulse laser, which I actually think is going to be a great way to eke out more firepower from such small mechs. Because the X pulse laser has such high damage despite being such a small weapon. I think that's going to be exactly what we need to improve the effectiveness of the spiders. Hopefully, they don't need any heat sinks. That would be nice. The base healing is hopefully sufficient. We'll see, though. Anyways, that's the situation. So what we are going to do is this right here. This is the Thumb War from Steiner. I haven't done it before, so we'll go ahead and read the dialogue. Commander Archon Catherine Steiner Davion seeks to reinforce the recently coined Lion Thumb region of the Chaos March. As you might be aware, she claimed the worlds of Lions for the Lion Alliance, while the Lion Thumb region lies coreward of Terra. It extends to the Draconis Combine. Our intelligence indicates that Coordinator Theodore Carita, with the support of Precentor Marshal Anastasius Vogt and Primus Sharalar Mori, has deployed an estimated 9 DCMS units under nominal Constar authority to maintain the order. Although the Archon has publicly welcomed these Kharitan peacekeepers, she does not believe their mandate is legitimate. She views this move as a calculated attempt to annex the Thumb. To avoid the appearance of direct Lyran aggression, she authorized use of mercenary forces to act on her behalf and apply pressure to the DCMS presence in the region. We have identified a sector on the outskirts of Lions with a manageable enemy presence. If you accept, your objectives will be to harass and drive the Kharitan forces from the area, sending a clear message that further expansion into the Lion's Thumb will not be tolerated. We await your response. Engage DCMS forces in the Thumb. All right, let's do it. For completing all the missions, we'll get a bonus payout of 5 million C-bills. The reputation doesn't matter because we're maxed out. A Night Gyre Prime. I actually looked up. I don't know if it's Gyre or Gur. Like, it's named after a bird. And then 4 clan double heat sinks. I mean, sure, why not? Let's take it. Where do we go? Oh, I figured that they would just take us there. Oh, it's really not that far away. Look at that. Whose territory is this? The Lion's Thumb. That's exactly what it is. I guess it's kind of shaped like a thumb. I guess that's where the nature of the name comes from. Apparently, Hansen's Rough Riders are working in the area. And they don't like independence. So I guess if you want to find them, I guess you work for independence. All right, here we go. So we got a warning. Robert Taylor says, you're going to need some firepower to get through this campaign. Well, we'll just have to see how we do. If we don't do well, then we don't do well. And, it's just how it is. This is a temporary campaign. It's going to be deleted when all is said and done. So, it's kind of like, well, whatever. It's fine. So here's the first mission. Thumb War. Archon seeks to... I think this is just them literally saying what they just said, which is something I hate. Our intelligence, the support, the P. Yeah, this is exactly the same thing. Now, we're not exactly buddies with the Lyran Alliance, so we're not going to get a lot. This is not going to be our most profitable mission. Our first battle is against pirates. We're going to be paid 1.7 million C-bills, 18 salvage. Not very good for this stage of the game, but you know, we're just doing it for the experience. We have 365 tons to work with, and so I'm going to use the new AC2 rapid fire Sunder. What do you want to use, Sheriff?
I am going to use... How much tonnage do we get here? A lot. That's like something big. I have not used the other Sunder, so I will give it a try.
Which one does this do? Oh, that's the MRM Sunder. I'm going to put him in support mode. Actually, what if I just throw him into these guys? Bring down the... Oh, look at that. Look at that. They changed the hardpoint art. That no longer has the LRM 20, and it now has the arrow art. Very nice. Here we go. Okay, so
I like it.
the news we're going to be talking about today is definitely going to be about the Russ Bullock interview where he discussed kind of his reaction to how MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries and Clans has been going, as well as the future of the BattleTech or the MechWarrior 5 franchise and what we can expect in the future. I'll try to weave the discussion in with the battles, but you know, it could take a moment. Let's just go east. I don't want to interrupt the dialogue too much, but at the same time, you know, a lot of these missions tend to involve nothing but a large amount of walking. So here is what we know about the interview. I had Gemini, Google's AI, basically condense the transcripts down so that, you know, down to like the main bullet points to trim out kind of the banter. What we know is that MechWarrior 5 Clans did not do well. It did not recover its investment cost. Some of this was apparently due to Game Pass. They didn't earn any money on the Game Pass, and that's because in exchange for allowing... Oh, here we go. In exchange for allowing them to sell on the PlayStation... Oh my god, it shoots so quickly. It shoots so fast. Like, it's really, really rapid fire now. In exchange for allowing MechWarrior Clans to be sold on the PlayStation, they had to forfeit all of their earnings on the Game Pass. And as a result, yeah, they didn't make any money on the Game Pass, and apparently most people were more interested in playing MechWarrior 5 Clans through the Game Pass rather than through traditional means of buying the game. Another thing, and this is probably one of the big parts I want to talk about, but let's get all the cards on the table first. Russ Bullock has reframed his perspective on MechWarrior and reframed his perspective on... Wow, super overkill, but go for it, guys, I guess. Not the deadliest of adversaries here, but so be it.
No.
I'm heading to the central location now.
Yep.
So he had a dream. Dream is my interpretation of this, but he basically made it seem like he had this huge vision of returning BattleTech and MechWarrior to the mainstream. But apparently he has reframed his view of this, and he now sees MechWarrior as a niche product, and that it probably is never going to go like really mainstream. It's probably not going to go really, really big, but instead it's going to be a product with a more core audience. And another thing we know is that it's unlikely that we're going to get a MechWarrior 6 in the future, mainly due to licensing issues with Microsoft, as well as the kind of MechWarrior 6 that Russ wants to make would require more funding, and he just doesn't think that Microsoft is going to be willing to do it. He's like, you know, he's not going to be willing to. Microsoft won't be willing to throw like Gears of War money at BattleTech. And then let me think. Is there any other major points? Oh, they did renew the MechWarrior 5 license, so we will see more MechWarrior 5 content. But I don't know how much MechWarrior 5 Clans content we'll say. I don't think he really talked about it. But given that Clans has not done very well financially, it would not surprise me if we either see little Clans content, no Clans content, or perhaps the next DLC that they were working on might be the last. That's just throwing out some speculative outcomes. Like, I don't know for sure. But that is what we learned from the interview. Now, here's the part, like, well, let's just start with reactions. That right there. Like, chat, if you have reactions and you want your reaction read out loud, go ahead and give your reaction to the news. And before we get into the meat of the discussion, which is basically, I'm going to talk about Russ Bullock's dream of bringing BattleTech and MechWarrior back and using Clans as his attempt at it. So let's not touch too much on that, Sheriff, but like just excluding that, do you have any thoughts about...
Excluding what, sorry?
Excluding the discussion of MechWarrior 5 Clans as the tool for bringing MechWarrior back to being mainstream. Oh, watch it. 4 mechs up ahead. Just, do you have any thoughts about the news in general? Because like I'm gonna have a bigger discussion about the big stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much. Maybe I'll leave my opinions to the end, because I've got some quite strong views on it, as you may well already know. I find the whole thing a bit alarming, to be honest. I really do. Like, particularly some of the things he's saying about, you know, that MechWarrior could never possibly be a large thing and all that. I just spare at the lack of, you know, just like aspiration. Like, it just seems like a very defeatist kind of attitude to take. I don't really like the attitude, to be honest.
Yeah, like I definitely think there's a lot to talk about in regards to... Man, who is shooting me? Okay, can I please stop moving and not get molested by enemies and just mow these guys down? I want to like mow people down with my AC2s. Let me tell you, this thing is rocking around like crazy due to like... I mean, the recoil is not unmanageable, but let me tell you, like, it is not a smooth ride when you're like letting those AC2s fly. Let's see what the chat's saying. Robert says, I was not aware that they sacrificed the Game Pass money so that they could play on the PS5. I'm grateful that they chose it for the cost. I feel like Microsoft was being really petty there. I'm sure there's some bullshit, like, legal explanation. Oh, they need to be petty in order to, like, protect their patent or something. But I'm like, okay, how much money did you really make off of this, Microsoft? Like, how much Game Pass money did you make off of denying the Game Pass money to PGI? Like, I mean, are you so, ooh, we really stuck at the PGI there. We got them good. Ooh.
It's like, what percentage of players have actually taken out a Game Pass subscription specifically to play MechWarrior? Like, I would find that to be like a low one. I feel like most people, like, I've actually seen a few people in the Discord coming into the Discord and actually very recently saying that they just happened to see the game on Game Pass, you know, while they already had the subscription and, you know, decided to try it out. So, like, I'm like not sure that that's like a really good reason for them to say that at all, to be honest. I think it's like, I agree, I think it's really just cheap. It's just typical sort of thing that Microsoft do, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they were just being like pointlessly petty, about it. Like maybe there's an argument that that we have to do it to protect our patent. We'll be seen as like we don't care. I'm like, okay, whatever you say, Broseph. Let's see what the next mission is. Thumb War Part 2. So that mission was pretty easy. Yeah, they dropped some extra units at the end, but overall, just really not that big of a deal for the mission. Next up, Commander, I just received an update movement report in the Thumb. It appears the DCMS forces in nearby regions are not yet mobilizing, so it appears they feel they can contain the threat for now. We have detected multiple Kharitan signatures that have just activated, so they're clearly preparing to put a lid on this right now. I have gotten a read on this DCMS regimen that's spooling up. These dragons are veterans with a lot of blood on their record. You take out these targets, and that will capture their attention. It will be quite interesting to see what their next move on the chessboard will be after that. There's no way to do this quietly now, Commander. Go make some noise. All right, everyone's repairing. Let's see if we can move the timeline. We can. So the Sunder probably still needs a little more. I don't know whose Sunder that is. Okay, that's my Sunder that needs a little more repairs. So you won't be able to try that one out just yet. We kicked up enough noise to alert the other Kharitan forces in the area. They are sending a response force into the reinforced area. You're tasked with digging in and holding off these hostile dragons in the target zone. Very well. I can handle that. 1.7 million C-bills, 18 salvage, just like last time. And also, this is a mega city. Yeah, we are in a mega city. I kind of want to see how the arrow performs in the mega city, to be honest. So, like, I am interested in that. Presumably, it should be able to fly over the skyscrapers and, like, avoid the skyscrapers raining downwards, presumably. I'm going to try this maybe a little bit greedy Stalker with the MRM-80 and 6 medium lasers. But yeah, let me go back to reading the comments. Algejol says, honestly, I do want MechWarrior and Battletech to come back in the spotlight, but I don't want it getting the kind of popularity that makes the devs overconfident and lazy. I think that's an interesting point. I have something in vein with that, though a different conclusion. Geico says, with all the money Xbox is losing, Battletech might be better off going to Sony or something, possibly. Well, here's the thing. Microsoft owns the patent for MechWarrior, the video games. So they can't go to Sony because Sony doesn't own the patent or the copyright to, the patent's the wrong word. They don't own the copyright to the MechWarrior games. So they're kind of stuck with them.
But, like, here's the question I would have. Do they need to make MechWarrior? Like, for example, let's say I decided to set up a development company and I wanted to do Battletech content. But let's say I was like, do you know what? To hell with you, Microsoft. I'm not going to call my game MechWarrior. I'm going to call it Mech Pilot, for example, and then pay like royalties to Catalyst to use their naming rights for the mechs and the art styles and stuff. Like, what's stopping someone from doing that, or is that not possible?
I think they own the names and the appearances for the video games specifically. I think. I don't know. I could be just making a bunch of bullshit up. I don't know for sure, but I think that's the way it works.
Because I wonder who Paradox licensed from for Battletech strategy.
They probably licensed it from Microsoft as well. Like I said, the whole thing with the FASA Fallout is it's a huge mess. Looks like this is just basically like a deathmatch-like mission. Like, yeah, the enemies are going to come in and we got to squish them.
Like, we can all be like really, thoughtful towards, FASA and how well they did for the company, but a part of owning these IPs, there's a responsibility to, pass it on in a way that, maintains autonomy for the thing. It almost, I and I don't want to say this because I feel like there's a lot of people who are like FASA stands. I feel like they sold out. I really do. I feel like they just went the easy way, to be honest.
Hey, who knows what the actual executives wanted at the end of the day? Like, it's really,
I know.
it's hard to say, because I'm not one of them. I wasn't privy to their internal thoughts. So I honestly just don't know the answer. It could be, like, maybe they're just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm just gonna eject with my golden parachute.
Yeah.
Like, who knows?
I don't know.
Wait, does that
just
thing have
seems
the
odd.
flap? It has the flap. When did it have the flap? It's got the flap.
Oh yeah.
When did that
Cool,
happen?
isn't it?
Oh shit, there's enemies everywhere. I'm too busy looking at the flap. Oh, he stood still. Terrible idea. Like, he stood still. I'm like, oh, perfect. You know, I'm definitely not going to blast you with 80 MRMs.
Yeah, Arrow didn't get a chance.
I really don't want to turn my back on these guys, but I got this annoying guy here. I don't know, I'm kind of liking the 80 MRMs. It's not even a problem with the heat either. It's not a problem at all. I mean, maybe if I shot non-stop, like maybe if I was firing like a maniac, it would be a problem. So far, it hasn't really been a problem. Like, I'm finally overheating, but I have knocked out a lot of enemies. And honestly, once they're in range, the MRMs are the main thing that does the talking on this mech. I'm gonna cool down. I'm gonna take cover behind this building. That's it?
There's a war zone, you can go longer if you want.
Yeah, if that's the mission, that's the mission. Okay, so let me give some reacts here to what people are saying. So Robert says he's grateful that they took the cost. Yeah, I mean, honestly, in order to grow the fandom, I think you kind of need to. You know, like, it's one of these things where you need to stretch out your roots. Because, like, you know, like, yeah, I mean, I understand, obviously, you got to be financially responsible, but if your goal is to grow larger, then I can't really see any other way to do it other than to, like, you know, get the game out there. You know, every fan you can win is a really big deal. Of course, there's the issue of, you know, yeah, you got to be profitable. Otherwise, people will pull the plug on you. That's kind of the catch-22 that I think MechWarrior is in at the moment. Let me go ahead and get us to the next mission start. You should be able to try the Sunder in the next one. So, Commander, radar shows the DCMS reinforcements are about to hit your position. No use drawing this out. They are going to band together with their comrades and try to hold this ground. It looks like they are fanning out to try to divide and conquer. They'll be sitting back and waiting for you to come to them, so try not to let any of their forces bog you down. I need you to secure every inch of this ground. We need Theodore Carita to see his after-action reports and start rethinking the DCMS occupation here. Go deal with the remaining Caritans and help craft this message. Let's do it. Looks like we're in a, let me see what kind of environment this is. Forest autumn. So it should be pretty even temperatured. What am I going to try? I'm going to try out the other Stalker, I guess. This is the regular MRM 80 Stalker that does not have the medium lasers. Hopefully it's a little bit cooler. Not that the other one was too bad, but yeah, it could be a problem in sustained combat. So over here, El Chajol says that he was kind of worried that if they get popular, they could become overconfident and lazy. That is relative.
There's a crate in this map.
What happened?
I bet there's a crate.
Yeah, let me check. I'm going to check right now. Let's see if we get a crate. Or if we have a document for it. Right, so this map kind of looks like an upside-down Tetris piece.
It's like a T.
Oh, there is one here. It is north of center. It's northeast of the main city.
We've got some tracks standing between us and filing this contract in the win column. Let's remove them from the equation.
So we're going to need to push northward.
Fire!
All right, so here's my issue. The reason I am not all that keen on the idea of like BattleTech becoming like mainstream is because basically everything that becomes mainstream becomes worse. And why does everything that becomes mainstream just ultimately become worse? And the reason is because, well, people start to get very financially invested. And when people get financially invested, they stop caring about the artistic value and the creativity, and they become very concerned with losing money. The investment means that, oh, bigger budget, bigger graphics, like more things that, while sure it's nice, like a prettier looking game is nice, the amount of investment money put into it gets so high that suddenly there's no more room for anything risky. There's no room for creativity. There's no room for controversy. Like, you know, you're gonna have to have stories that are just like, oh, like good wins because good is good. You know, you're not gonna have any nuance. There's not gonna be any moral gray areas. It's all just going to be safe, generic. Safe and generic, exactly that. Safe and generic. That's the penalty of going mainstream. And I certainly don't want that. Like, sure, would I like MechWarrior to be more popular? Sure. But I think that there is a limit to how good something gets, the more popular it gets, simply because the more popular it gets, the more money is involved, the more risky it is, and the more risk-averse the investors get. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty big fight. We've got multiple repair bays activating. I'm going to try to push towards the... You might want to take one of those. I don't know what your condition is.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, go ahead and grab one. I'm going to go over here and try to locate the cargo. So that's my concern with popularity. Maybe I'll knock out this group and then continue searching afterwards.
I'm gonna probably jump in here before the group.
Don't know what I hit, but... trying to use this repair bay for cover, but the repair bay keeps opening up to let me in.
They don't hand out free passes, that's for damn sure.
The next wave is here. It looks like you're all nice and repaired. I'm gonna try to search for the cargo. Actually, I might let you handle that. Like, I don't know how big of a group. Nah, I'm gonna help a little bit. I need to help a little bit.
This thing is freaky.
All right, I'm looking for the cargo now.
I'm gonna grab another thing. I just have a feeling this is probably gonna be the last area.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, you're attracting a lot of gunfire. Okay, we did find it. This is the location of the cargo crane.
I think you'll need to beat a surrender out of them, Commander.
I'll see what I can do.
So we got
Cretans are down to their final force, Commander. They're on
2 level 5 light autocannon 5. I think I can go for another battle. I think I'll be fine for another fight. Maybe 2 fights, depending on how much damage I take. Let me tell my guys
Really
to
just
stop
throw
here.
the thing into like right in the middle. Stoker. One of that was.
I'm gonna get right in there and start letting them have it. I literally can't see anything.
By the tail. We won't screw around.
God, once you start shooting at the target, it's like, it just becomes a fireball. All right, I'm gonna fall back and repair. Maybe I'll provide some fire support as well. Ooh, he almost landed on me. I'm gonna try to get this Phoenix Hawk that's chasing you. Phoenix Hawk is disarmed.
See this? Honestly, this just stood in front of the entire mission. Like, oh, in my face.
All right, looks like you got this under control. I'm heading back to repair. I can see what body part you're hitting just from like watching the armor disintegrate.
DCMS boat is down to nothing, Commander. You're in the
Well, I'm not gonna lie,
I'll see you
that
on
was
Earth.
a very satisfying mech. This is so fast by shooting. Like, they have absolutely broke this weapon.
Yeah, it's just like crazy. It's like basically a machine gun, but it fires autocannon shells. Let's see what we could do with our 18 salvage. Not very much, but I'll take that UAC-5, I guess.
Is this light AC?
Honestly, the catapults with the Arrow 4 have been really nice. Like, they're actually pulling their weight now. I guess that was the end of the campaign. So, the final thoughts are, Commander, it looks like you accomplished what we asked you to do. You helped dislodge the Caretans in this sector of the Thumb. Currently, no other units have been dispatched to retake it. We have also cut into another transmission. They speculate that the Lyran Alliance might be behind this operation, but they can't confirm it at this point. I'm not sure they will be offering you any contracts anytime soon, though. Time will tell whether this has caused Theodore Careta to rethink his plan to annex Lion's Thumb, but we have given them something to think about. You followed through on every term of the agreement, so you're free to go. But before you do, your outfit will be transferred a special bonus on top of your negotiated payout. The Archon was pleased when she was briefed on the success of the operation here, so she asked me to ensure you were rewarded. Thank you for your service, Commander. We'll certainly consider you for future job offers after this. Be safe out there. So we get the 5 million C-Bells, the Night Gyre or Gyre, whatever. Night Gyre, Gyre, whatever it's called, and the 4 clan heat sinks. All of this is going in because we're not using any of this. So, of the different missions, that was probably the easiest one, I would say, overall, and I'm not seeing any new ones, so I think we are free to pursue missions at our leisure now. So one thing we need to do is we need to catch the rest of... There's 2 things we need to focus on. We need to get the cantinas cranking, and so let's go over here. We need to get cantinas cranking, and we need to get the mercenaries knocked down. So, operations, objectives, where are my jobs? Collect a king crab, the harassers, go to this area. No, let's remove that. That's fine. All right, let's see if we can pick up some missions. So, collect PPCs. I might have those. Let me grab that. Chemical laser tier 4. That's a really odd request. AC5 tier 3? Yeah, why not? We can probably do that. Yeah, see, we already have some of these. So, PPC tier 4, I'll give it to them. 1.3 million C-Bills, a tier 4 AC5, and 3 tons of AC5 ammo. Gets us to almost level 9. 7 AC5 tier 3. Looks like we already had that. 1.3 million C-Bills, a tier 5 AC10 burst fire. Not a great trade, but, you know, gets us closer. Let's go ahead and jump back and forth in order to reset these. Manticore. We haven't really found a lot of Manticore lately. Let me see if I have more of those AC5s. Not very many. I might drop that one because, like, it's a rather specific request. But let's go over to this cantina. We'll see if we got anything interesting there. Kill a Zeus 9S. I'm already maxed on that. This one we should do. We need to get the treasure hunter done. Warriors are easy to do. Okay, here we go. So operations, objectives. Let's get rid of this one. And honestly, I don't see us killing 15 manticores anytime soon, because like the manticores have not been as common because of the unit dilution. Let's get the warriors and let's do this one, the rogue cluster. Where is the rogue cluster? It's right here. So let's see if we could figure out. This is a decently high level area, which is fine. Perfect. So this is an objective raid, difficulty 86, and we should be able to get the jump ship sail here. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, look at this glorious high-paying contract. 60 salvage, 1.1 million sea bills, and in we go. I'm actually going to use this. This is the hero bushwhacker. Should let me scramble around to find some of these objectives a little better. You'll probably be taking a little more heat as a result, though.
Yeah, thinking, let's go big. Do you know what? I'd choose that again.
Use Big Daddy again. Okay, so let's talk about, and you know, this would be the main thing that you would be talking about as well, Sheriff. I want to talk about Russ Bullock's disillusionment with bringing MechWarrior back to the mainstream, as well as how he attempted to do it, which was basically through MechWarrior 5 clans. I want to start out by saying that I appreciate his dream of bringing MechWarrior 5 back, because that's actually why I do beginner level content. Like, why don't I do intermediate or advanced level content? The answer is because I felt that the people who are intermediate or advanced, they're already into the game. Oh, I'm going to go over here and grab that. They're already into the game, basically. You know, they know how to play. You know, maybe there's room for improvement. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but they basically know how to play the game. The people that we need to grow the BattleTech fan base are new players. And new players, they have to struggle with the pretty rough learning curve of MechWarrior 5. That's why I focus on beginner level content. And so like I sympathize with his dream of bringing MechWarrior and BattleTech back to the mainstream. However, I don't agree with the way he went about it. And while I don't know if it's too early to throw in the towel or not, I don't think that clans is the proper metric to use to determine whether or not the idea was a failure. Oh my god, that's an Arrow 4 turret. I just got shot by an Arrow 4 turret.
This is nasty.
There's 2 Arrow 4s.
Well, they're on attacking me.
Alright, I got the cargo. Alright, I got 2 rear armor breaches as a result of being struck by Arrow 4s, so I meant to be a little careful. Like, I basically have to face everybody head-to-head now, or armor forward. Good. I was not expecting to get hit with Arrow 4 out of nowhere. That is nasty as a turret. Like, that is officially, that is instantly the most dangerous turret in the game now. But, so here's the problem. This is another Arrow 4 turret. Fortunately, I'm in its minimum range, and I'm just going to step on them. Now I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of Arrow 4. It's not great. It's not great. Who is that over there? I think one of our... Yep, he's stuck. Let me get him unstuck. Of course, it's the Hoodoo Desert. No surprise there. So, here's the problem. Clans was not the way to bring Battletech back into the mainstream. Now, I know why they did it. They did it because that was the feedback they kept getting. Unfortunately, the feedback was a poison pill. That's the problem. Normally, you would be praised for listening to your fans. For good reason. Many of them don't. But in the case of MechWarrior, this was a poison pill. What I mean by that is there was a very vocal element of the fan base who really, really wanted clans. Clans. I'm talking about 4 years they were on Twitter. Every single post that Piranha Games made, why aren't you doing clans? Are you afraid of money? Are you allergic to money? No clans, none of my money. Not clans, keeping my money. I guess PGI doesn't want my money. I'm talking about 4 years of that. Maybe even more than 4 years. However many years of MechWarrior 4 or MechWarrior 5 mercenaries until they finally made clans. Every post on Twitter was just the clans. You must be allergic to money. They are mismanaging the game. They don't understand what the players want. Like clans. Like, you know, no clans, no money. That is the feedback that they were getting from a very vocal element of the fan base that turned out to be a vocal minority. Now, I was of the opinion that that was exactly the case, that these were a vocal minority. I didn't have a way to prove it. It was an intuitive thing. Like, my intuition told me that this is the old guard, and the old guard of an old game is not necessarily going to resonate with people today. And there's a good reason for that. Why is there a good reason? The answer is that the clans are not relatable at all. The clans are basically, I've been thinking about this for a while. What are the clans? The clans are basically, in terms of like literature and story writing, they're basically skinwalkers. What do I mean by that? I don't mean it literally. I mean it figuratively. They are figurative skinwalkers. And what I mean by this is that they are human enough, but they're not quite human. They're very weird. They're not so weird that they come across as aliens, but they come across like there's something wrong with them. Like they're not quite normal either. Like there's clearly something off about these guys, and that's what makes them a literary skinwalker. They look human, they use human words, but they're not quite human. They're weird. They get really upset about things like contractions. They have their own vocabulary that isn't so extensive that it feels like an entire, like a Star Wars style alien race. They just have a little bit of slang. So they're kind of like the Gen Alpha of the Battletech universe, like talking with their slang that nobody understands, but it's not quite a full language. Their ways are kind of human, but they're not quite human. Like they're still weird. And if you ask me, it makes them not relatable. Aliens are often more relatable, or aliens are more relatable, I'd even say. And they're not alien cool. they're alien weird. They're alien in a weird way, not necessarily in a cool way. And I think that's the final blow on the clans, is that they're weird,
Oh,
they're
he's running ammo.
alien. I'm trying to just back out of here. I don't want to turn my back to them. Okay, you could finish the job?
I'm broke. I got no ammo.
Oh, well, I guess I'm turning around and hoofing it out of here. And that's really the issue, is that they're not relatable. Now, why is that a problem? Why is it a problem that the clans are not relatable? Well, you're trying to bring BattleTech back. That means you need to win a lot of new fans over. Well, like, how are brand new MechWarriors supposed to relate to these weird narrative skinwalkers? And like I said, they're not weird in a cool way. They're weird in a weird way. Oh my god, let me destroy this thing before it gets my arm. Teddy Bear says, I think the clans fill the alien role for BattleTech at the beginning. They're right. That's right. They're very alien, but they are BattleTech's aliens. Which is interesting. It's interesting that humans were the aliens. Like, I understand the poetry of it. But like I said, when you're trying to appeal to people and like, yeah, get on board MechWarrior, play as Clan Smoke Jaguar, isn't that awesome? I don't think it comes across as awesome. I don't think people are like, wow, this is so cool. Like, I'm like the clans or something. I think people look at it and they're like, yeah, this is weird. These guys are strange. And they're not strange in a badass way, because they're also like, they're whiny bitches. They're like, they get shocked at stupid things. They're egotistical and they constantly blunder and then like gaslight each other. They basically gaslight each other to like mentally block out their failures. And I don't think like, while okay, you could say like, okay, those are some interesting flaws, perhaps. I don't think those make you very awesome. Like, you're not very cool because of that. You're not like, wow, these guys are fucking lit, bro. I can't wait to be a clan. I think they just come across, once again, as weird. So when they made MechWarrior 5 clans as an attempt to, let me see, what can I get here? J. Edgars, I guess. I guess there's always room to kill more J. Edgars. Let's just find, we just need to find some missions now to like, wow, this is very different looking. Oh, contract details. Dragoons. Oh, yeah, you can play as the Dragoons now. Oh, we've got a FedCom squishing mission. We got some good missions here, actually. Let's head over here. So basically, I feel like to kind of wrap these points together, it's hard to stream coherent thoughts when you're trying to play at the same time. But basically what I'm saying is that if your goal was to, like, bring MechWarrior back, you need to be relatable. And the clans are not relatable. And I don't think they're very cool either. Now, some people might think they're fucking awesome. I don't. I'm of the opinion that they're really fucking lame. And let's go for the ×4? Yeah, ×4. Objective raid, target kill, garrison, battlefield, scorched earth, info. Yeah, that one's easier. Let's do this one's harder. This mission's gonna pay out big. It's gonna be big. Big money. 73 salvage, 14 million C-bills. Might get immersed. 14's so high that there's probably gonna be the black hearts. So the Bushwhacker, I didn't really get a full opportunity to try it out, but you know, I didn't have a problem with it either. Let me see. What am I gonna use? I think I'm going to use one of these MRM boats again. Time to boat it up a notch. There we go. This is the one that has the boat. So, to get back on track, when Russ Bullock is like, oh, I have like lost my perspective that the clan, or not the clans, that MechWarrior 5 is going to be really big, I kind of feel like, I don't know if that's true or not, but you didn't put your best foot forward. You put your clan's foot forward, and the clans as a point of view was not putting your best foot forward. I think the clans are great as an enemy because seeing like these egotistical guys squirm around is certainly like there's a catharsis to it. But as the main characters, I don't think that was putting your best foot forward. So I don't know if BattleTech can be brought back into the mainstream. Like, that is beyond my level of like wisdom. But what I can say is that clans was not the answer. On the other hand, which way do you want to go, down or east?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me.
Let's go south. But what and the thing was, oh, was this just Fox saying it after the fact? Are you just like shitting on the clans after the fact? I never liked the clans. I always thought the clans were a bad idea. I didn't have any way to prove it, so I didn't like go on tangents about it. But I have said multiple times from the beginning that I don't think the clans were the right idea. Now it turns out I was right. I can't claim to be super right because I wasn't able to articulate why. I just had like an intuition on it. But now that I reflect back on it, I know what the issue was. And it is relatability. You're a niche game, you know, like MechWarrior is not well known. And you're basically putting these weird clan guys forward as we're supposed to get really excited about them. Like, damn, they're so badass. But they're weird. They're not like the elites in Halo. The elites have an honor society. The elites have like this kind of religious devotion to things. The elites have a superiority complex where they look down at other people. But they're relatable. They're cool. Probably because they don't have some of these weird quirks like getting really bent out of shape about contractions, which just seems like, I mean, I understand the idea that they're like, oh, we want to distance ourselves from being inner sphere. I'm like, maybe that's just stupid though. Maybe you're just dumb. Have you considered that? Like, maybe you're just stupid. That's really how I see it. Like, just because that's part of your culture, that doesn't mean that that part of your culture is like, oh, it's part of my culture, therefore it must be brilliant. It could be stupid. And like, that's a part of their culture that's stupid. And like, it's not cool sounding, like, and when somebody encounters it, they're not going to understand that this is like a cultural thing. They're just going to be like, man, these guys really hate contractions, I guess. And like, that's going to be the size of it. Anyways, let me put those thoughts on pause. If you have anything you want to say, chat, I will read your reactions. And same with you, Dr. Sheriff Crab. Like, I'm sure you had something to think about this because you were also opposed. Now, yours was also interesting because you were in opposition to the clans despite really not knowing anything about them. So your opposition to the clans was a kind of raw, visceral thing. Like, you just looked at them and you're like, I just don't think this is not it. And I think that is, in some ways, maybe even more valid than me because you are, in some ways, a window into what they're trying to win over. They're trying to win people over who don't have knowledge of the subject. And while you weren't new to BattleTech by then, I think you see what I'm saying, right? You know, you get the kind of idea that, like,
I totally get it.
Because you don't know anything about the clans, you are a simulation of what they're trying to win over.
Or at least what the target audience should have been. I don't really understand what the target was for them. I think it was just bowing down to pressure. I think you're absolutely spot on about that. I think they really didn't. I mean, if the idea was, as it always is in business, to make as much money as possible, clans was not the correct answer. It was a good idea because what would happen is your initial sales would be amazing. You know, you get this sort of like initial core, you know, group of people who will buy the game straight up. And I think that was true, and I think that was, I sort of do vaguely remember at the start, like the initial sales and the projection to be like really, really good. The problem is, I have two nuances to this. First of all, to those who were, you know, so adamant that it had to be the clans over the, you know, and it really has led to the detriment of BattleTech as a whole, and I'll go into why I believe that is in a second. But what I say to those people is, those people would have bought anything. that was BattleTech related. You know, had they not made a Clans game and they just went and made another Mercs, another Inner Sphere game, you know, further the timeline from a Merc perspective, or go back in time, those diehard MechWarrior fans, they still would have bought the game. They may have complained about it and they may have been annoyed about it on Reddit and Twitter and all the rest of it. They still would have bought the game and there still would have been as many sales. I have no doubt about that. You know, there's certain like game studios that no matter what they bring out, even I might be inclined to buy it, despite it potentially not being that good, just because I've, you know, got such an affiliation with that type of thing. Now, why I think it didn't work, I think you've more or less nailed the, you know, the hammer on the head there. The familiarity. Now, coming from the perspective of a player who only picked up BattleTech with the strategy game and then on to MechWarrior 5, is that, and here's where I may be different to players who've played, you know, MechWarriors 2 to 4. I don't feel any affiliation with the clans whatsoever. My entire experience of MechWarrior is, and BattleTech is through the eyes of the Inner Sphere, and it's not through the clans. So I don't feel like I am a clanner. I don't feel like I could be a clanner. I find them weird. I find them strange. I don't affiliate myself whatsoever with them. And as you said, from really day one, my perspective was that the concept of what they are, what they represent, the iconology with all the animals, I found very odd as well. It seemed extremely like childish almost in a way. It didn't feel like the nitty gritty experience that I've sort of grown to expect. So I found that a little bit disconcerting. My major issue was more through the fact that they
kill that
decided
thing.
to
That
build
thing
a
has
game.
narrow 4. Kill that bitch.
Yeah, I was to step on a ammo. Oh, I flagged. Yeah,
The Mercs are here. Heavy lance with 1 assault.
Detecting an enemy vehicle. Kindly remove from this sector.
And I think, like, what they could have done to try and, like, breach both sides is stick with the concept of interest in the clans, but tell the story make a new game from the Inner Sphere perspective, where the player who has only just got into the game can still be their team, they can still be their guys, can still use their mechs and all the things that they're used to using, but they don't have to start changing everything about themselves. They get to see this odd foreign invader and treat them as an enemy, because to me, I just see them as an enemy. I just see them as everything that the Inner Sphere is not. I see them as everything I'm not, and I find that like I just find it a little bit strange, and I feel like there was probably some perspective there that could have, you know, if they had a use of foresight and spoke to sort of players who were new to BattleTech and not the ones who are, you know, the 10% of people remaining who are just effectively legacy players, as harsh as it sounds, that they may have actually produced something that could have been extremely sellable, because they had the foundation already there for the Inner Sphere experience with 2 games previously. They just had to go and execute it well, and instead they just went down this other completely different route. And I just can't see in any world where that was ever going to be successful, personally.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I definitely think, like, what you're talking about, like, you see him as the enemy. You see him as, like, you don't see any nostalgia in it, because, you know, there's no nostalgia to be had in the first place. And you just see them as an enemy to be opposed, ideologically, in basically every way. And, you know, like, I know that there are big fans of the clans, and while I don't think it's wrong for people to like the clans, but I'm not going to hold my opinions back either. Like, in a world where everything is going to become more and more AI and safe, I'm just going to say, I think the clans fucking suck. Like, I just do. I think they're super lame in virtually every way. I think their names suck. I think Clan Wolf is a stupid name. I'm just gonna say it. Like, I don't think it's cool. I don't think Clan Jade Falcon is a cool name, and I'll tell you why. When somebody comes forward, they're like, you know, like, we are the armed forces of the Federated Suns, and we lay claim to your paltry planet. You know, in all the respects of the proper art of war, I give you this opportunity to stand down and surrender. Oppose me and be destroyed. When they say the armed forces of the Federated Suns, you're like, oh no, that sounds like it could be a military. sounds like it could exist. When they say, "Oh, here comes Clan Jade Falcon. We challenge you to a bachawl. Oh, you refuse? Prepare to feel the Falcon's claws." To me, it just sounds like role-playing. Like, it just sounds like some kind of weird, like... This doesn't sound like a serious military to me. Like, to me, this just sounds like some LARPing roleplay. And I'm just like, are you for real, my guy? And he's like, "You dare think I'm not for real? I won't use any contractions when I defeat you." And I'm just like, okay, broski. Like, whatever you say.
I just don't want to like refer to myself as like a kitten or a cub. I just find that really odd.
Yeah, it is really weird.
I'm an adult. I'm not like a child, and I'm not like an animal. I just find it really, really strange.
And like, I get, like, we're supposed to see it from the perspective of the people we're playing as, but it still stuck out to me. Like, the moment that he referred to like Jaden as a bunch of like kits or cubs, and he's like the kit commander, I'm getting a real strong pedo vibe from this. Like, I mean, like, I mean, I'm not saying that they are, but like, it just gave me, I don't know, I'm just getting this real pedo vibe from it. Like, it's like, it is highly unappealing. Highly unappealing. And, you know, like, I that might not be the intent, but that, you know, like, intent and interpretation are like separate things. Like, sometimes you want people to see things in a certain way, and you have an oversight, or you have a blind spot in your vision, and something like that happens. Like, that's just the way I saw it. Like, I did not see this as like, oh boy, like, yeah, we're getting into that spirit of the smoked jaguar. I just thought it was weird. I didn't like it. Let me read a chat real fast. Robert says, "You have an interesting perspective. The clans are weird. If that's canon, then that's unattractive. As clones, they could be better foes, but they could be made to feel superior, but currently lame." Okay, like, it's really hard to talk about my perspective on the clans without mentioning the Buff Clan from the anime Space Runaway Ideon. And that's because they're very similar. The Buff Clan is so this is a jungle swamp. Let's take a look at the temperature of a jungle swamp real fast. I'm pretty sure it's on the hot side, though. Here's my chart. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Jungle swamp, 37. So it's on the same level as a summer forest, and it's just below an arid canyon, a hoodoo desert, a scrapyard. So it's a little bit on the warm side. Not like smoldering, but... oh, this mission has us traveling? That's interesting. So I guess multi-ops can cause you to travel around. Maybe that's why we're getting a change in scenery as well. These guys are not ready. Because we're not in a mega city, I do feel better about using LRMs, because I was worried that the buildings would intercept the LRMs. So let me go ahead and outfit these guys. There we go. Breaking out the old Atlas with the light autocannon 5. I do want to build something that dedicatedly uses light autocannons, just to try it out more, but we don't really have anything that fits the build at the moment. So, as I was saying, I'm going to bring up the Buff Clan from the anime, the 1980 anime Space Runaway Ideon. And the Buff Clan share, they have the word clan in their name. That's like one similarity. But the Buff Clan are a warrior society, an honor-bound society. I'm going to head north, just because, like, I don't know, why not? And they do dueling rituals. They settle things through dueling. You can make wagers through dueling. And they do have a superiority complex. They do look down on people. But they do it in a way that feels like a real military. One of the scenes that really sticks out to me is there's a scene where the Buff Clan commander, Gijay Zaral, is trying to show how much more powerful the Buff Clan is. So he says, we're going to destroy one of their planets. Not like the mass of the planet, but the surface. We're going to blow up the planet. And then when they see how effortlessly we can sweep them off the face of the universe, they'll need to consider like whether this is worth fighting for. So they come out of light speed and they fire sublight missiles that travel basically at the speed of light, and they do their damage by the fact that when you transfer kinetic energy at the speed of light so nothing can travel at the speed of light with mass. And so when they do travel at like 99.9999999% of the speed of light with mass and they hit something, it's like catastrophically destructive. It's basically just physics as a weapon. And I'm talking about in minutes, they wipe out like 50% of the planet's population in like less than 30 minutes. They land and they're basically like, you have seen what we are capable of. To continue fighting is senseless. Surrender Ideon and the ship to us, and we will spare you. So they're doing a clans-like attack, more like the Inner Sphere than the clans, but they're coming down and they've offered their ultimatum. And where this clans-like element comes from is when the people on the planet say, no, we will not do that. We will fight you. And what is their reaction? This is a clans-like reaction, but it feels more believable. They're like, you want to continue fighting after we've destroyed half of your planet? This is evidence of you being a savage and barbaric race that cannot be reasoned with. And what's funny is, like, from our perspective, and they're like, you're calling us the savage barbarians? You just wiped out half of our population. But from their perspective, they see pointless resistance when you are guaranteed to be destroyed as just fighting for the sake of fighting for the sake of stupid pride, jeopardizing your entire species just to like angrily shake your fist at someone you have no possibility of defeating. And so they do see that as being barbaric. Like, you know, like you love fighting so much. Your priority on fighting is so high that you will sacrifice the other half of your planet for pointless resistance. And that's exactly what happens. They're like, fine. And they launch another wave of sublight missiles, and they destroy basically 90% of the population. The small remaining quantity that survives is able to survive because of the efforts of Ideon and the ship that supports it. And that's what I mean, where you can have a faction like the clans that have a kind of different morality, a superiority complex, looking at others as like barbaric, but in a way that still feels like believably militaristic and kind of like minimizes the horrors of war due to scale, because the Buff Clan is an empire that's capable of traveling the entire universe, not the galaxy. They can travel the entire universe due to how advanced their technology is. The idea a single planet is nothing on a universal scale. So there's the dispassionate perspective they have due to the scale of their empire, where it's just a numbers game to them. And so they serve a very similar role to the Battletech clans, while still seeming like a real military faction who can enact these horrific war crimes so casually and then blame you and then flip the blame onto you. Like, you know, like, oh, you're getting fine. You're going to get what you deserve. Like, if you pleasure in war and destruction, I will give it to you in greater quantities than I'll give you all of it. You can be completely destroyed. And like, that's one of my issues with the clans, is that they just don't feel like a real military organization to me. They feel, you know, I think you use the word childish, Sheriff, but yeah, that is how I view them. I view them as childish. Like I think that's the perfect way to describe them. And I don't see them as a serious military organization. Maybe some of them are... Oh, shit, I just overheated. I forgot how hot the planet is. Screwed that up completely. Fortunately, his weapons are so weak that he can't really do a lot about it. Let me just spritz him with the X-pulse lasers a little bit. Let me watch my heat this time. Getting hot. Get him with the light autocannon. Spritz him with the X-lasers. Oh my god, I hit 96 there. Atlas doing a great job of just enduring the damage.
Now let's get you all home. Head to the Eva point.
So, like, basically, this is all me pointing out that, like, maybe the clans weren't the right way to go for a first-person perspective. Like, I think the clans are great as an enemy to fight against. I think the clans are great as an antagonistic force because, you know, people love stomping. People love seeing the great and mighty laid low. They love seeing people fall to their hubris. Like, that's something that is just, like, extremely... The Germans call it Schadenfreude, which is enjoyment from the suffering and misfortune upon others. So, I mean, I think the clans are great as an enemy. People will love to see the proud, superior, complex hubris lead to their downfall. So I think the clans are great as an enemy, and I think people love their technology and love their mech aesthetics, and you could have all of that. But I think the answer was not to make the clans a first-person perspective. You could actually handle them just like the Buff clan. You get an idea of the Buff clan's society by getting briefings in their war rooms where they're discussing politics, where they're talking about interpersonal relationships. That's how you learn about the nature of the Buff clan and, like, what kind of people they are. But you don't need to see the first-person perspective of the Buff clan very often. Like, you do get the first-person perspective of the Buff clan, but it is a secondary thing. Wow, the Stalker and the Awesome took no damage. They literally took 0 damage. And look how little damage they did without those Arrow 4s. Like, I don't know, like, I think it's becoming increasingly difficult to not see Arrow 4 as a ideal weapon to equip onto your AI allies there.
Oh, I agree.
Let's go ahead and repair. We got this King Crab is actually very important. That's why I took it, because we have a quest or a Cantina mission that requires us to get it, so that's a really big deal. Oh, we got the black hearts. There we go. There's a message from the... We'll handle that later. So here's an important perspective. This is a perspective from Geico 11. As someone who is new to Battletech and MechWarrior, the clans to me seem like organized zealots with all the tantrum that brings. Yeah, I mean, because, like, well, there are cool organized zealots like Space Marines, for example. They are cool, but they're usually very stoic. Even in death, they tend to be stoic. Not all of them. You know, Space Marines are a dime a dozen in terms of their persona. But once again, the Space Marines were meant to be zealots that are badass. You want to be a Space Marine. They're designed to be appealing. Let me see. Can I bring these guys? Nah, those guys they need repairs. So I guess I'm going to do the medium-range missile Sunder. This is a garrison duty in a arid canyon, so heat is going to be an issue. Do I use a long-range mech for a change? I might do that. I might use a long-range. I haven't used a long-range mech in a while. Do you think you can handle being the center of attention?
Yep.
Okay. Here we go.
One of my specialities.
Long Live MechWarrior says, how dare you fight back? You shall be barbaric. Battletech writing is dumb, says Long Live MechWarrior. I mean, like, I kind of agree. I think there are really dumb aspects of the BattleTech writing, but the subtext is good. Subtext is good. But it was possibly written by... What's the word I want to use to describe? Maybe people who have an excessively American perspective on things. Maybe that's the way I'll choose to describe it. Oh, we have enemies. The Blackhearts are here for round 2. We're softening up that hunchback. That hunchback is about to go. Okay, nice. All right, they're dropping right now. Here they are. They got an Atlas. What are you targeting? I'm firing at the Atlas for now, but I'll switch targets if you have something better. The Atlas is taking an absolute harrowing amount of damage right now. I'm on the Warhammer.
I'm gonna go for that King Crab, probably headshot it. Maybe not actually.
This Warhammer is about to go. The Warhammer is out of here.
Ooh, over here. Oh,
I'm on the Jenner now. The whole Lance is on the Jenner now. We're on the King Crab. Ooh, great shot from our allies there. I'm on the Centurion. This is a lot of enemies on field. Like, the area is swarming with enemies for some reason.
Another dropship as well.
I need to clear the buildings so that I can actually shoot. I'm going to try to thin some of these vehicles out. Locking onto the Partisan. Locking onto the Harasser. Locking onto the Scorpion. I'm locking onto that Rifleman that you're targeting. The Lance is on the Rifleman. I don't have a good firing angle due to the buildings. I'm moving to the corner of the buildings. That looks like a Lance +1. I am targeting the Zeus. The Lance is now targeting the Zeus. Big damage on the Zeus. It's about to drop. We're targeting the Grasshopper. I wasn't expecting so much resistance. You could tell. You know when I'm locking in when I don't do any more commentary? I just like announce what I'm doing. We're targeting the Marauder. This is a good spot right here. I'm actually going to stop, and I'm just going to launch missiles from this spot. Are my missiles behaving more intelligently than normal? Like, I feel like they would have hit that building. Like, are they just like, are these missiles just smarter than normal? Did they change missile behavior? These missiles are way smarter than normal. Targeting the Commando. They're almost more Arrow 4-like. You know, these missiles seem way better than normal. Are these, like, intelligent missiles that they didn't tell me about? We're targeting the Warhammer. The buildings are covering it. I can't...
What sort of missiles have you got?
I mean, the missiles are flying way higher into the sky, I feel. And they're kind of like... They just seem better.
Do you have Artemis 4 ones on?
They are Artemis, but like I didn't think that was going to matter. Like I didn't think that changed the firing pattern. Like these missiles seem way better. They're almost Arrow 4-like in terms of like... They still kind of clip things. Okay, I have just enough ammo for this final battle. 3 VTOLs. That must mean there's 5 enemies left, so it's 2 mechs.
Marauder on Zeus.
Targeting the Marauder. Lance is on the Marauder right now. We're letting him have it. He's taking a lot of damage. Armor breaches on the Marauder. The Marauder's down. We're on the Zeus. Yeah, these missiles are different. These are like smarter missiles. Like, did these missiles like graduate high school or something?
Does anyone have a tag?
No, nobody has a tag. Like, and even if they did, that I don't think that would alter the pattern. I think they may have updated missile logic.
Been long enough.
Yeah, these were way better. Like, I'm very happy with these missiles. In fact, they're way less likely to just crash into stupid shit. They're much more likely to actually land on their target. I think we have one more mission, but let me go ahead and spend some of this so that take any DLC weapons. Hey, look, I actually did pretty good damage there. And I got 5 kills. Not bad for, like, a missile mech. Our allies did, you know, not as good as the Arrow 4, but still decently.
Oh, Lone Live MechWarrior is also with the puppy. The puppy, I actually haven't got the puppy yet. He's still with his mum. He'll be with his mother for another 4 weeks. He's only 6 weeks old, so I'll get him when he's 10 weeks old.
Have you figured out the name yet?
I think I'm going to call him Archie. I think it's like a kind of like old sort of granda sounding name, and he kind of looks like an old man, so I think I'm going to call him Archie.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Archie. He looks like an old, what's he got, like a mustache or something?
They kind of got like a bit of a beard.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So Long Live MechWarrior says, there are lovers who say things like, I will never get in the clan mechs because I hate the clans. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, that's actually why I like the Sunder. I'm like, okay, Sunder gives me clan-ish performance as an Inner Sphere mech. Like, you'll notice we're not really using any clan mechs, and we're not using any clan technology. I'm like, ugh, patooey, the clans.
It's a funny one because, like I say, had they brought this game in from the perspective of a massive DLC for MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries where you continue to play as mercs, or from the perspective of a new game, but even with new characters where we didn't have to have Mason, it could have been, you know, you could have been a, I don't know, Cretan MechWarrior or even a Lyran MechWarrior, or someone who's sort of on the, you know, face of the attack, or even a member, you know, MechWarrior from the Rasselhaig Republic, and told the story from that perspective of the invasion, and you know, and you being called out to the front lines to go and, you know, defend it. I feel like you probably wouldn't hate using the clan gear that much because you probably have to use it. You know, if you're using kind of like crap, you know, military issued weapons, and then you're sort of like told, okay, now we're gonna have to like refit our mechs into this. I feel like that probably would have been done better. I still have major issues with it being a story-driven game rather than being an open-world narrative sort of sandbox type game like what we're used to with this. But if they were going to have to do it that way, I just feel like they could have done it so much better, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I think they alienated people with the clan's perspective because they're just like, I mean, like, I guess I am just hating on the clans, but I'm hating on the clans from a place of concern. I'm hating on the clans because, like I said, I don't think they're putting your best foot forward. So, like, I don't know. They're just kind of weird. They're kind of lame. Like, I don't know. They're kind of like... They're perfect as an enemy. They're someone you should fight as. They're not exactly someone you should play as, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. And I'm hating on them from the perspective that I think... And maybe I'm being really harsh, but I'm hating them on a perspective that I'm really disappointed with PGI and Ross Bullock, because you got this fledgling...
Yeah, this is a good point. I agree with you here.
New audience that has basically just picked up the game, right? And they're like, oh my god, like, found a, you know, a game that I really like. It's set in this like grim, dark world where you've got these crap mechs and you have to sort of build, make do with the best that you can get. And then you like change it all around and you give them an entire new perspective, an entire new culture, an entire new, you know, thing, and it's not catering to what that audience wanted. And like, they probably could have made a game from the clan's perspective, but they could not. They should never have introduced clans as a first, as you say, from the first person perspective. They had the introduction from sort of like as a antagonist, and then if they really wanted to make a game where you play as the clans, they probably could have done it later, whenever the concept of them didn't seem so like foreign. And my god, it really does feel foreign. Like I feel like, you know, if I play I'm British, if I play like Crusader Kings, for example, and I play as like old British Empire versus like if I was to play as like an Indian Empire, it means nothing to me. It's not that I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't have a bit of fun doing it, but like I don't have any great loyalty to the country. I don't have any great loyalty to, you know, I can't put myself in the same shoes, and I would never play that, you know, from that perspective. It just would be odd for me. So I just feel they really just did not do anything to sort of like, what's the word, like caress the hand of the new player.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I sympathize with Russ in the sense that he was trying to do what the fans wanted him to do. The problem was that the people who were telling him to do this, they were not... There was a few issues. One, the people telling him to do this are not the entire fan base, for starters. Not stupid. You don't need the whole fan base to tell you something, but they don't represent... Basically, the old guard, like, it's hard to say this without being, like, super insulting. Maybe you just say it. I mean, maybe it's insulting, you just say it anyways. Calculating, like, levels of diplomacy.
Well, like, I think it's fair to say it's not, if you want me to help, I think it's fair to say it's not that it's the entirety of the old guard, but it's the really yappy, loud, sort of, over, like, I guess kind of like the spoiled brats, basically. I want to put it. They're kind of like spoiled brats. Like they're not getting their own way, and they're throwing like a temper tantrum. And it's not that every single, you know, old player is like that. I think it's fair to say, because we know plenty of them in our own Discord that actually share the same sentiment that we do. But it's like, yeah, there just seems to be this, like, I don't know what percentage it is, but let's say for argument's sake, 20% of them, but they do like 90% of the yapping. That's how I see it anyway.
Well, they're so...
the Reddit, sorry.
Well, they're so, like, aggressive, where they're like, you just don't want money. You're mismanaging the company. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you know, like, oh, I'm not giving you any money until you do the clans. Like, they're not just like, hey, man, it would be... Okay, it's one thing to say, like, man, I really loved MechWarrior 2. I really loved, like, the clans. The clans are so cool. It'd be great if you could, like, introduce some clans content. But they don't do that. They're like, you know, like, they're like, oh, I guess you just hate money. You don't like money? You could be printing money right now. Like, if only you knew, like, you're just, like, mismanaging your company. Like, you don't know anything about running a company. They're so, like, aggressive about, like, their feedback, where it makes it seem like that this is the biggest blunder of the century. Like, oh my god, you're not, like, making clans content? Like, wow, like, you guys must not know what you're talking about. And I can understand why Russ Bullock might have thought, man, like, clans is it. I'm gonna surprise the fan base. Like, that would just wait till they see, like, clans reborn. It'll be just like MechWarrior 2, but even better than MechWarrior 2. It'll have even bigger cutscenes and big budget. He probably thought he was doing this, like, really awesome idea, but it was myopic in the sense that, well, first, no, it just was myopic in all senses. But the issue was that in the end, he was making a game basically just for the old guard, a game that would not resonate with new audience, a game that, like I said, MechWarrior 5 Clans, unfortunately, was just a misguided game. And the reason I keep bringing it up is because Russ Bullock says that he doesn't really believe in this idea of MechWarrior becoming really big, or big in general. And I'm like, it might be premature to say that when you put clans as your big attempt at winning everybody over. Like, you polished up the clans and just put all this money into it, the big cutscenes, you did all this crazy stuff, when in the end, the clans, you know, like, in my opinion, was not the answer. Like, that was not how you win a new audience over.
And it's like, they already had the audience, and he already had the audience in his hands. You know, the audience was there. people who were digesting content from Inner Sphere content happily. Their sales were through the roof. Every single DLC that they've released for MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries has been really well supported as well, because that's what people want to play. And then they took that and thought, oh, do you know what we'll do? I'll tell you what, like. Because I think their misguided nature was that they think that they just made a bunch of like BattleTech fans, that people were just happy with every aspect of the BattleTech lore from bottom to top. The problem is, I would say like 50% of the new players probably at least don't have a clue what most of the lore was, unless they got like hyper invested or they had someone like you to teach them. So obviously I had, you told me tons of stories about your experience with BattleTech, and quite a lot of in-depth lore and stuff, because I took an interest in listening to you talking to you about it. But like, most people don't have that unless they want to go and sit and read hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content on Sarna, which no one wants to do. So I feel like it was really misguided, and it was really per leadership, and it was really per sort of forecasting of what the game was going to be. I'm very like surprised by like how badly executed it was, to be honest. Like, really, really surprised.
Now, hold on. Like, Long Live MechWarrior just said something really important. He said, it's interesting because TTB and Big Red 40 Tech said the Clans was better than Mercs. Those are two content creators. Now, I want to say, to clarify, I don't know anything about TTB other than his existence as a MechWarrior content creator. I don't watch any of his content, so I don't know anything about him as personally. Same with Big Red 40. I don't watch any of his content, so I don't know anything about him. But they said that Clans was better than Mercs. Well, they were wrong. And I think the reason they're wrong is because they just looked at the spectacle of Clans, and they didn't consider the holistic package. Hold on, let me just read off this real fast, and then I'll get back to my point. 5.3 million C-bills and a Tier 5 Artemis LRM-20. That's pretty tasty, for giving them that king crab that we found. And then we do have more LRM-20s to give. Tier 3 LRM-20s, they're going to give us 1.1 million C-bills. A Tier 5 PPC, not worth it. Like, I'd much rather have those LRMs by comparison. But basically, like, they were wrong. And I'll tell you why. Like, they're not wrong in the sense that obviously people can like whatever they like, But I honestly think that a lot of these people just saw, the graphics are better. Oh, there's cutscenes and shit. It's just better. But, like, what about the holistic package of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries? Like, that's why people keep coming back to it. They're not coming back to MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries because of the big budget cutscenes, because of the, like, dialogue. They're coming back because it's comparatively a cheap game, especially if you were playing it from day one. Like, now if you buy the game plus all the DLCs, it would be a bit expensive. But over the course of the years, it was a cheap game. If you were buying all the DLC, it still was very cheap, and it just gives hundreds, if not thousands of hours of gameplay, whereas Clans gives you, in the words of Russ Bullock, 30 hours of gameplay on average.
Yep.
Most people will play 0 to 1 playthroughs of Clans. They either will play 0 because they get bored and give up, or maybe they thought it was too hard, or they'll play 1 playthrough. And then some people might play additional playthroughs, but most people, I believe, intuitively, play 0 to 1 playthroughs of MechWarrior 5 Clans and then just move on to the next game. Because it has no replayability.
Well, you can ask yourself that question. You're a massive MechWarrior fan. You've played, similar to me, well over 1,000, nearly 2,000 hours of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. How many playthroughs have you played of Clans, considering you've been a fan of the series for the better part of 2 decades? How many playthroughs of Clans have you played?
I have played 1. I've played 1.
That tells you a story. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, you would be one of the people you might expect would be like, especially considering you're a
Wait, hold on. We just got a big comment here. Wedge Antilles 7159 says, "Hi, it's me. I'm at 0 playthroughs, even though I bought it and all the DLCs."
Me too.
And that's not that. This is not an attack on Wedge. This is exactly my point. That if the game were just so fucking fun to play, he would have been done with he would have been like, I just can't put this game down. This game is so damn fun. I want to play it every day. But that's not what's happening. And like I said, I'm not trying to like dance on corpses. I'm really having trouble finding the line between telling people what I actually think and like just like beating the shit out of the shit just to be beating the shit out of shit. That is not my intent. But like there's an element of like I don't know, I can't think of any other way to describe it.
No, and the problem is as well, like, you know, in a way you're. I think like anyone who sort of listened to this and maybe is like fuming in the background, like, oh, I love, you know, clans content, and you're wrong, you're not right about this. I would just like to point out one thing about Fox and his nature right now, and I'm not trying to like, you know, kiss ass too much here, but like you're in some regards putting your like reputation on the line here by saying this. You know, like these other content creators may be coming out there to say this, you know, to gain favor with Piranha Games, you know, by saying that they really love the game. I would find it highly disingenuous if they were genuinely believing that Clans is a better game than Mercs. I mean, there's absolutely no metric on this planet that would suggest, you know, and I don't mean in terms of the way it looks. I mean in terms of the output, in terms of sales, in terms of player numbers of hours, in terms of money that's been spent into the game, that they genuinely believe that Clans is a better game in terms of output. That is just not true. It's just factually incorrect. So I think you have to bear in mind, for Fox to come out and say these things about this game, he's doing it for one of two things: for the preservation of the game that he loves, and for the second of all, to tell you guys the truth, so you don't go waste your money on it. And I think like it can be very easy to get like caught up in the rigmarole of, you know, oh, you know, because it's new content is great, and because it was Clans it was great. I think the old guard really need to humble themselves and just say, look, we were wrong, and the sales of Clans were bad. Even though it's the content we wanted, that is really bad for the future of MechWarrior. Like, really bad. Yeah, these games have to hit, they have to work, they can't fail, because the margins for error and time and money are so slim.
Yeah, and I can understand from the perspective of a developer, like being very like discouraged by, you put so much work into something, and then like you just get to watch it not succeed. You get to watch it fail.
And then to come out and say, I don't think that BattleTech could ever be a thing, on the back of that, I mean, that is big words. Like, that's not small words to say. Like, you know, you can never imagine, like, you know, for example, Battlefield did really well in really early sales, really well, sold amazingly, and then it really stalled and the player just got down to zero. You would never see the developers of Battlefield come out and say, oh, I don't think Battlefield could ever be a big thing again. No, they wouldn't do it. They'd be like, okay, that game didn't work, what can we change? So to come out and say that in a public forum, I find really concerning, to be honest, but maybe that's just me.
My read into it is just kind of like, I just read sadness in it. I just read like despair, like, you know, I just read like almost like regret, like, yeah, like regret. Those are some of the things I see, because like, yeah, like I said, you know, being a content creator myself, not all my videos do well. Fortunately, as a content creator, my investment per video is lower. Like, I'm not like putting like millions of dollars into something. But I still, like, you know, when I'm like, oh, this is a good video, like, I got a great idea here, and then it gets like basically nobody gives a shit, you feel like, damn, like, am I just dumb? Do I just not know what I'm talking about? Am I just stupid? You know, it does make you question yourself.
Yeah, but you don't go and, you know, cry about it, and you'll get over it pretty quickly, and you think, right, okay, that sucked, that didn't hit. Why did it not hit? What can I do better? How can I improve? Like, do you remember all the times where your audio was a bit shit? You know, you went and spent like hundreds of hours trying to, like, you know, optimize. I mean, and I would think you would even say to this day it's still not fully optimized, and there's things you could do better with that, and you are still trying to improve it as time goes on. You know, at least the optimization of your process. So yeah, I find it really highly concerning, to be honest, from a professional outfit coming out and saying things like that. Like, that's really not good. It inspires absolutely no confidence in the new player base either. Like, none whatsoever, to me anyway. I mean, and I'm telling that from a, you know, personal, from a,
fortunately,
you know, perspective.
Fortunately, I doubt anyone is actually going to listen to it, because you know, like, it's 2 hours long. The only people who are going to listen to it are the people who are really bought into not just MechWarrior 5, but they'd have to be interested in the process of development in the game. They'd have to be really invested in, like, the future of, like, MechWarrior 5 and whatnot. So if you're not one of those people, then yeah, like, you probably completely checked out. Like this it will mean nothing to those people. But let me read some of the comments real fast. Suzaku says, I played clans and almost immediately went back to mercenaries. That's what Chubby Demon did as well. Chubby Demon loves MechWarrior, let me tell you. He was super into it. He has not beaten clans. He's not even done one playthrough of clans. And that is saying something because he really likes MechWarrior 5. Like, and he's been on board since he was on board since my initial playthrough, like 5 years ago of MechWarrior. Theodore Wolf says, I'm not completely against the clans, but I understand the mentality of screw the clanners when playing mercs because screw those invaders. Definitely agree. I think they're great as an enemy as well. Robert says, I played clans once, went back to mercs, and never bought a clans DLC. So, in other words, like, if I read into the subtext of that meant it left a bad taste in his mouth. He was like, he played it, I'm like, I guess this was a game, but the DLCs are just more of the same, and I didn't care for the first one, so I'm not buying the second ones. Like, that's what the subtext, that's what the subtext says there, or at least that's what I read into his words there. Theodore says, I wish you could deploy more than one Lance and become a larger Merc unit. That would include non-mech units. They did a little bit of that in MechWarrior 4. It does feel like a step back in that regard. Long Live MechWarrior said, I played a lot of Chaos Reign, but I still enjoy going back to the clans because of the missions, which is fine. I love Wolves of Tukayid. Had so much fun playing, but I don't like Clan Wolf. I'm not going to say there weren't cool individual missions, like fighting the Bellerophon was kind of neat. But, you know, like, there are people who did enjoy playing clans overall. And, you know, I'm not going to invalidate their experiences. So but overall, like, that is the situation for Battletech. Let me go ahead and read the AI summary that I had made of it. Where is it? So, if you want the interview yourself, it's like 2 hours long, though. Here's a link to the interview. I downloaded the transcripts, and I just had Gemini summarize it. So, the main points is myth versus niche reality. Russ Bullock shifted his long-held belief that the MechWarrior IP can break out into a massive mainstream audience. He now firmly views it as a core niche community that requires realistic budgetary expectations. Like I said, that to me, the subtext there is that the failure of clans really discouraged him. That's what I think the subtext. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm interpreting it incorrectly, but that's what the subtext reads to me. Financial impact of the Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass significantly cannibalized the initial sales of MechWarrior 5 Clans because many players opted for cheap or free subscription trials over buying a full copy. Furthermore, due to the complex IP licensing arrangement, Piranha Games did not directly profit from Games Pass integration. Commercial success of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. So good news. Mercenaries is one of the best-selling games in the franchise's history, second only to the monumental moment of MechWarrior 2. The base game sold well over 1 million copies and then expanded to over 2 million copies when combining its 8 DLCs. The financial failure of Clans. Despite achieving high review scores, averaging around 80%, and boasting incredible production value for its budget, the Clans failed to expand the franchise's audience and did not recoup from its development costs. So this is where, you know, the comments for TTB and Big Red 40 come in. They gave it a high score. I think those high scores are very misguided. I think those high scores are just based on, voice acting, visual spectacle. I think that high score completely does not consider the ideas like the clans are just not relatable. They're just not interesting. They're not an interesting faction to be entertained by the spectacle of. The repetitious nature of the game, the lack of replayability. So I think that 80% score is too high. Once again, if people enjoy clans, I'm not going to invalidate their experiences. Like, you know, like they can certainly, if they had fun with it, they had fun with it. But in my assessment, and the thing is, although I sell myself as an uplifting person. I will say that, like a little bit of inside look at the Fox. I sell myself as an uplifting person who encourages people, and it's not false. But my true skill lies in deconstruction. That's where my real talent comes from. My talent is in looking at something and saying, this is why it doesn't work. It's generally viewed as, oh, you're just hating or you're negative, but that's how my brain works. I work by saying, this is what doesn't work. And if I find enough things that don't work, I converge upon the things that do work. And once I converge upon enough things that do work, I can be uplifting to a new player and say, hey, I have made all the mistakes for you. I have figured out what doesn't work. Here's what does work. And then I can be uplifting in that regard. But my main skill is in deconstruction. And when I saw Clans, that was my deconstruction of it. The evolved gaming landscape, the broader industry is consolidating rapidly, with over 90% of revenue falling into a handful of long-standing titles like League of Legends or GTA. Steam statistics indicates that up to 70% of total revenue spent in a year is on older games rather than new releases, making new games risky. This is most likely because our economy is terrible, and a dollar spent is like every dollar spent needs to go somewhere good. So like people are spending money on what is guaranteed. Like they've been playing League or GTA for like 5 or more years, or like they've been playing Fortnite for like 7 years. Those are reliable. And like I said, the economy is not fantastic. A lot of people are, like trying to figure out how to pay their electric bill, let alone pay for games. So I agree that new games are risky, but here's what we're seeing. We're seeing MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is scooping up some of this 90% of revenue flowing into a handful of long-standing titles. MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is our long-standing title, and that's why people keep investing into it, because MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is basically guaranteed safe fun. Maybe it doesn't have the crazy budget. Maybe it doesn't have the insane spectacle, but it's guaranteed fun. It's like, and it's low risk. That's what's so great about that's the true success of MechWarrior 5 right there. Minor points: development budgets. Piranha Games operates on a highly efficient budget compared to peer studios. That means they're very efficient in their low funding. The initial release of MechWarrior Online cost $3 to $4 million. Mercenary cost roughly $15 million. Man, that is a risk right there. Triple the cost of MWO. 1 million to 1.5 million per investment on each DLC. Clans cost roughly 10 million, and apparently Clans did not recover its investment money, so it didn't make $10 million back. Ongoing content for Mercenaries. Piranha Games originally expected to make only one DLC, the Heroes of the Inner Sphere, but due to ongoing community engagement, they are actively working on DLC 9. So if you want some good news, DLC 9 is going to be a thing. So that means we are going to get another DLC for Mercenaries after Chaos Reign. Creation of motion capture pipeline. The 2 hours of cinematic motion capture in Clans was an unexpected achievement driven by team initiative. The production crew built their own suits and their own helmets and rented out a cheap downtown space to pull it off efficiently. I do admire their ability to eke out the most out of very little. That's where the channel's history comes from. Before I played MechWarrior 5, I played Stardew Valley and State of Decay. These are games all about optimizing the most out of what little you have. So I do have a lot of appreciation for eking out like every dollar of your investment money. Co-op infrastructure limitations. Integrating robust matchmaking and dedicated peer-to-peer archetypes for co-op is roughly 10 times the workload of their current system, which constrained what they could do for mandates on Clans and Mercenaries. I actually think Mercenaries could really benefit from a Helldivers-like experience where people get one mech and they play with 4 other people in some kind of Helldivers-like ongoing experience. I think there is potential for that. I think that might be what could unite the audience together. People love playing games together. People love doing dumbass shit together. And they have the Inner Sphere and like a map with like border disputes. Like they could do something like Helldivers there. And not a lot of people copy Helldivers. Helldivers is still relatively untouched in its potential. Here are some statements of fact. Piranha Games has held the IP for MechWarrior for approximately 15 years. MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries initially launched as an Xbox Game Store exclusive. That's why I have to play it from from the Epic Game Store. It was like that for about 15 to 16 months before it went to Steam and consoles. MechWarrior 5 Clans is built on Unreal 5, which offered roughly 30 hours of gameplay and 2 hours of motion capture cinematics. That's just not enough. It's just true. 30 hours of gameplay for $40, that's not good enough. 30 hours of gameplay for $30 is not good enough. That needs to be like a near transcendent experience for $30. For $1 per hour of gameplay, you need to have a near transcendent. It needs to be one of the best things you've ever played. I think that is how, and I guess I am going to speak for the typical gamer here. I think for the typical gamer, that is how they feel. I don't know for sure, but my intuition says that's just not good enough, and that's why people are investing their money into old, reliable games rather than experimenting with new games. Piranha Games recently secured another license extension from Microsoft. Good news. If you wanted more MechWarrior content, Piranha has extended their license. The parent company, EG7, underwent restructuring and issued public press releases regarding Clans failing to capture a new audience. I wonder if that's where the 30% layoffs came from. Don't know. The subtext implies that. Don't know, though. Makes me wonder. Speculative and subjective beliefs. Game Pass units loss. Bullock estimates that Clan lost upwards of 100,000 unit sales within the first 30 days solely due to the presence of the Xbox Game Pass. I don't know. This is speculative. I don't have enough inside knowledge or any inside knowledge into this subject. I will say that I do hear a lot of talk about this, how the Game Pass is not good for the developers. It's good for Microsoft, and it's good for gamers, but it's not good for developers. I have heard that multiple times. I don't know if it's true, though. I don't know if it's true. Future of the industry and AI. Bullock fears that in the next 18 months, the technological advancements, particularly in AI, will change global employment and the gaming industry beyond what anyone can currently imagine. Possibly. There is a lot of resistance to AI at the same time. Maybe a little hypocritical since I'm using AI to summarize this. I don't know what to think about AI. I see some value of AI, but I also see a lot of problems, mainly in electrical infrastructure. I think is a really serious issue with AI, amongst other things. But at the same time, I do see some value in AI. Like I see one negative thing for every one positive thing about it. I believe quite a bit in authenticity, which is why I don't use AI to produce my videos. I don't use an AI voice. I risk my own voice. I spend time working on my own voice specifically because of that. And I believe that if AI does become big, there will be a market for authenticity. That's also why I'm trying to give harsher opinions as well, because harsher opinions are more authentic to myself. So that's one of the, like the MechWarrior community is a lot more receptive to my harsh opinions compared to State of Decay. When I offered criticism of State of Decay, lots of people really got mad. I think I was still right, and I think the loss in popularity of State of Decay indicates that I was correct about those. Also, Undead Labs mirrored some of the things I said about State of Decay, like the new maps they made were a waste of development time, which they never directly said, but they implied that they weren't worth it due to like the 9-month development cycle to make one new map. So from my State of Decay experience, I am sometimes hesitant to criticize the game I'm playing, but maybe I just need to do it anyways. The blueprints for MechWarrior 6. Bullock notes that if MechWarrior 6 ever happens, it should ideally consolidate everything they've built across 3 separate products: the PvP of MechWarrior Online, the sandbox PvE of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, and the linear storytelling of MechWarrior Clans into a single game. I agree. I think that would be a true AAA experience. If you could bring in the PvP, bring in a Helldivers-like cooperative experience with progression that people can enjoy, bring in some linear storylines that are added on top a traditionally endless MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries campaign, That could be a big deal. However, Microsoft funding it with Gears of War money is highly unrealistic. I also agree with that. I think MechWarrior 6 of that scale would be very scary to publishers. And that's what we know about that. That is the summary of the 2-hour-long Russ Bullock interview. Let me see what people are going to say. Happy Orange says, am I going to play State of Decay 3? No, I am not going to have anything to do with Undead Labs or State of Decay. I don't want anything. I don't want to be associated with them. I don't mind speaking about it in memories, but when I switched from State of Decay 2 when I switched off of State of Decay 2 into MechWarrior, that was I am not looking back in that regard. I am ideologically opposed to Undead Labs, and I want nothing to do with them. That doesn't. If you enjoy State of Decay, that's fine. That is not a dig at people who are enjoying State of Decay. If you like State of Decay, good. I'm glad there are games you like. I do not, and I don't want to be associated with Undead Labs. Long Live MechWarrior says, if they could add a PvP aspect from clans to mercs, that would be fun. As a fellow dumbass, he's right. Theodore says, I do agree on the economy comments. It's easier for me to buy DLC for MechWarrior 5. I am yet to buy the clans. I do plan to when I have more money for fun cash. So yeah, you in a situation where every dollar makes a difference. That's the power of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. Long Live MechWarrior says, I really was hoping for him to say there might be a chance of a MechWarrior Online 2, but it looks like that won't happen too. That would be probably a tough to have people go into a MechWarrior 2 and a totally new system, all the money and time they've invested. It would be tough to do. That's why you don't see sequels. Overwatch 2 went disastrously, for example. It's not to say you can't do it, but it's kind of a tough sell. Eder31 says, my first MechWarrior game, and funnily enough, MechWarrior Online, a game with all these elements would be fire, as I enjoy a PvP drop now and then. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. They have these interesting experiences, but they're split apart, multiple games. It's working right now, but a consolidation would be very expensive, but I do think there's a lot of potential. Happy Teddy Bear says, yeah, I think an extraction shooter lean to MechWarrior franchise would be good for it. I definitely think something akin to, because I think people really like the co-op, the relatively low pressure co-op of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. I think people would really like something like Helldivers. Drop in with up to 3 other people, form a lance, go out and do as many objectives as you can to bring as much money home as you can, and then rinse, wash, and repeat. And I think there's a lot of potential for that. Did you have any quick closing thoughts, Sheriff, before we end today's stream?
No, other than thank God for MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, because had Clans been the first game that came out, I think it would have been pretty solemn death for the series. So thank God for Mercenaries. And peace out for me. That's where I'm leaving it.
Okay, strong final comments. I agree, though. I think it would have been disastrous. It was already, the Clans already was disastrous. It did not recover its money. But if they let off with it, that would have been like a Hindenburg-type disaster. If they let off with Clans and it just immediately failed, everyone who was saying, it would be pretty cool. Well, what if we made a MechWarrior game? Everyone would have looked at that and would have been like, this massive ball of fire dying. It would have frightened everybody, and you probably wouldn't see any MechWarrior content for the foreseeable future. But I am glad that Mercenaries has pulled it off. I'm still sad that the Clans failed. Just because I predicted that it wouldn't be the correct answer doesn't mean that I'm glad that it failed. I would have much rather that it succeeded in order to create this upward momentum of bringing not just MechWarrior, but mech games in general. I would like to see mech in general see a resurgence. We do recently have Mobile Suit Gundam Rogue Orbit was announced as a very high-budget looking mech game. The Armored Core 6 caused people to play MechWarrior 5. There were people on Reddit who said, I just played Armored Core 6. I want more mech games. What should I play? there was a pipeline from Armored Core 6 into MechWarrior, and I think there will be a pipeline if Mobile Suit Gundam Rogue Orbit performs well, of people saying, hey, I want more mech games. What can I play? And there will be a pipeline into Armored Core 6 and MechWarrior. And I am very, very strongly of the opinion that the kind of like pointless conflict between MechWarrior versus Gundam, MechWarrior versus Armor, I think it is completely irrelevant. I think the different mech factions need to stand together because the mech genre isn't as strong as it was in the past. There was a time when the mech genre was very powerful. So I really think people need to look at the bigger picture, stand together with other mech genres, because there is a trickle-down effect. There is a pipeline from somebody enjoying one mech game to then trying out and enjoying another mech game. That's what I think.
Yeah, you're spot on.
Teddy Bear, as a final comment, says, good stream, everyone. Have a good night and stay safe. As usual, thank you guys for being such a great audience. I hope I delivered the news seriously and authentically, but without, like, I didn't want to come across as like a mega super. I don't mind mega super hating on the clans, but hopefully people understand that I'm deconstructing this, not because I'm like, yeah, fuck you, you suck, but more from like, looking at a debriefing, essentially, like just analyzing the how things went and giving my thoughts on it. Anyways, oh, there's a rivalry between mercs and clans was not helpful. Yeah, I agree. Like, as much as I like mercenaries, and as much as I think clans was not the correct answer, I would have much rather a third MechWarrior game have just been a success. But what can you do? Like, I mean, there's just kind of a nature. Not only are humans tribalistic by nature due to our, like, just the way we are, but it feels like the mech genre is very tribalistic as well. And I mean, okay, I'm gonna put the blame here. I notice a lot more Gundam fans who are also open to BattleTech, and I notice a lot more BattleTech fans who are like, oh, yuck, Gundam, that weeb, get that weeb trash out of my sight. I notice a lot more visceral anger from the BattleTech crowd, and I see a lot more open-mindedness from the Gundam crowd. I definitely think we are not powerful enough to be split apart by such pettiness. When the mech genre is more, when we're seeing more regular mech genre releases, maybe then we can return. You know, we can dissolve the Star League and return and decide who the top dog is. But until we are at that point, I don't see the point in the tribalism. Eder says, I was a Gundam fan first. BattleTech is cool, and they're totally separate things. Long the MechWarrior says, yeah, no problem, Fox. Appreciate the honesty. Thank you very much. Anyways, thanks for being a great audience. It's time for Sheriff and I to dip out, though. Oh, wait. What about trying to shill out the old Discord invite? Yeah, the Discord invite. There we go. There's a Discord invite. If you want to talk or become a part of the Fox Republic, click the link and join the Discord. Otherwise, we're dipping out. Deuces, everyone. And remember that you don't have to be good to get good.